Hi everyone, I hope that you're doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Boom Shikha and I welcome you to my channel. It is raining outside today, so I'm not doing a video outside, I'm doing it indoors, which is totally fine. And in this one, I wanted to give you the basics of why knowing thyself or knowing yourself is so important for creating proper boundaries. I think I've done a couple of videos on boundaries in the past few weeks, but I suddenly realized that it's not possible for you to set up boundaries for yourself if you don't actually know where those boundaries lie. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't create a boundary against around you if you don't know how far that person can step into your boundary or how close they can come to you. For example, in terms of personal space boundaries, some people who are from the less populated countries of the world, like Sweden or Canada, their personal space is huge. Like they have a huge line around them that people should not be able to cross. People who come from densely populated countries like India and Bangladesh, I noticed that their personal space boundary is like just right here. They'll come right close to your face and have no problem speaking right there with you because their personal space boundaries are completely differently set up, right? They're completely different. And so again, like that's a very simple example, but that shows you that each person is going to have to decide on their own where do their personal boundaries lie, and they can only know that by knowing where their boundaries are according to who they are, right? They need to know themselves for that. And that's again, it requires a bit of self-reflection, a little bit of self-contemplation, a little bit of knowing in order to realize, okay, where do my boundaries lie? I'll give you a quick example. And this is also something that you will be able to notice in your own life, that your boundaries will change across days, across your cycles, across your menstruation cycles, across your age, across wisdom, across like it just keeps on changing every single day. So some days you'll get up and you'll be like, yeah, I think I'm okay with someone doing this to me and I'll be fine with it and I don't get angry. And then another day that person does exactly the same thing, nothing different, nothing's changed, but all of a sudden you hate it and you're like, no, I can't stand this anymore, right? So again, this doesn't mean that you're being fickle or you're being impulsive or you're being weird. It's just that boundaries are fluctuating. They are not set in stone. They're not like the boundaries or the borders that are created by the map makers of the world. It's not like, okay, this is the boundary between India and Pakistan, and if someone crosses it, then they're dead. It's not like that. The boundaries that human beings make are fluctuating, they're flexible, they're spontaneous depending on the day. So again, obviously that creates confusion as well. Unless you communicate about your boundaries, the other person's not going to know because they don't know which person they're encountering today. Is this the person that's very good with boundaries, or is very closed off with boundaries, or is very open with boundaries? Who is it? They don't know unless you tell them. That's why communication is so important in boundary creation. You can't just create a boundary and expect everyone to know about it. How are they going to know? They're not mind readers. You have to tell them, okay, today I'm feeling really introverted. I really don't have a lot of energy for people, so I'd appreciate it if you left me alone. Or another day I feel really energetic, I feel really bubbly and cheerful, so I'm okay with having a lot of conversations and sitting around and chatting. Does that make sense? So you have to communicate that. Otherwise, the person's going to have no idea what's going on with you. They're going to think you're a maniac, or you're like, that you have a multiple personality, and they're going to be confused by you. So again, as I said, you have to know yourself in order to create the boundaries that you are in. The example I was going to give was when I was younger, I was I didn't have very high self-esteem, and I didn't really consider myself to be very important. And so people could insult me right to my face and I would just laugh over it. I would just laugh uncomfortably on the inside. Outwardly, I'd be just laughing. And I would just pretend like it didn't matter. I'd pretend like it didn't hurt me. And I'd just laugh and laugh and like, hi, you're so funny, and things like that. And I just dismiss it. And then they would keep on poking fun at me, or they'd keep on making fun of me, and I would just laugh at it. Again, my boundary system that at that point was not set up properly. I didn't even know where my boundary should lie. So obviously people kept on creeping over my boundaries, and I got uncomfortable, but I didn't know how to communicate that. Now, obviously, 20 years later or whatever you want to say, it's a completely different scenario. I know exactly where my boundaries lie, and exactly when someone crosses them or is about to cross them, I can cut them off. And so if someone insults me to my face, instantaneously I'll be like, I don't like that. Don't do that. I don't like when you say that to me. Please don't say it, right? I'll either do it in a very nice way depending on the person, or if they're being extremely rude, then I'll do it in a rude manner as well, right? I get what I get. And so in general, as I said, a completely different scenario. If someone knew me from back then, they might assume that I'm the same person and they can just insult me, but then they would know instantaneously that I'm not, right? It's a very simple example. It's something that happens constantly, obviously. People say stupid things without even thinking about it. They don't think about twice about what they're actually talking about. And so they will end up insulting you, and you can just cut them off right away. No, I'm sorry, I don't like that. Don't do that. A lot of times this happens when people make sexist or racist or politically incorrect jokes in front of me, particularly sexist and racist and homophobic, obviously. Any kind of joke where it's derogatory to a particular group of people, women particularly, obviously, homosexuals, or the LGBTQ community in general, or right now there's also a lot of trans jokes, which I'm not liking at all, and I'm a little bit upset about with a lot of people that are in my community. Obviously as well, like race jokes, like it does not make sense to me, and I don't get it. Like how's that funny, right? And so as soon as someone does that, that's a strict boundary for me. It's a very, very strict boundary. There's no way they're getting over it. I'm not gonna laugh at it, and I'm not gonna let them get away with it either, right? Very strict for me. For some other person, might not be like that. They don't care that much about racism, or they don't care that much about trans people or LGBTQ community, or they don't care that much about women. Yeah, they think that women are a second-grade citizen, and they're okay with jokes being made about them. For that person, if a person makes a joke, a homophobic joke or a racist, sexist joke, they don't care. They'll laugh at it and they'll be okay with it. Again, different boundaries set up for different people, because that person knows that they don't care. I know I do care, right? And so again, the only way you can know where your boundaries are set, if you know yourself. You have to know what do I care about? What do I like? What don't I like? What triggers me? What doesn't trigger me? What's my shadow? What's not my shadow, right? And so you won't know until you actually hit all of these questions and you start answering those questions for yourself. Where do you stand upon a lot of these things, right? Also, in a lot of cases I've found for myself is that I know when a boundary of mine is being hit, when I start getting uncomfortable on the inside, like my intuition starts piping up, I start getting anxious, my body starts cringing or getting uncomfortable, I start moving or, being like twitchy, things like that. I know at that point when that happens for me, when I start going through that anxious or uncomfortable mode, that my boundary has been stepped on. And so as soon as I know, I see, I don't like this because my boundary is being stepped on, right? So as soon as that happens, I know now that I need to correct it. And how do I correct it? By communicating about it. And so again, as I said, people are not mind readers. They're not going to know when your boundary has been set up, has been crossed over. Now, unfortunately, a lot of times people take boundary correction, or you talking about your boundaries, as a way of insulting them. A lot of my parents do that a lot. When I say, I don't like this, don't do that again, they think of it as I'm being disrespectful to them. Unfortunately, that's their thing, and that's how they're going to assume and they're going to take it. A lot of my friends take it as that as well. Oh, you're just no fun anymore. You're so serious all the time. Why do you have to be like that? Why can't you take a joke? It doesn't matter. They can take it as they want. They can take it as disrespect, or they can take it as I'm too serious, or they can take it as I'm no fun. But the point is that my boundary is crossed, and I'm not going to let it happen, right? Because eventually, as I said, if you keep on repeating it over and over again, then the person's going to get it, and they're going to stop. Or they're going to stop being your friends. And that's perfectly fine as well, right? You don't need people like that in your life. I don't need people like that in my life. And so again, it's very important to remember to make sure your boundaries are set up properly, to communicate about your boundaries properly, and not to worry about what other people think about you, what it says about you as a boundary setter upper, right? It's not, you don't need to insult yourself over it. They don't need to insult you either. If they do, then they have no idea what boundaries are all about. And in fact, a lot of people use this, when you set up a boundary, you're like, I don't like this, please don't do that. And they'll be like, oh my God, you're such a terrible person. You have no idea what you're doing. Why are you like this? Why can't you just have a little bit of fun? And so people start insulting you because you set up a boundary with them. They're just basically using that as a tactic to make you feel bad and break the boundary apart. Don't do that. Don't feel bad. They're just using a tactic against you, and it's not your responsibility. It doesn't matter. You didn't do anything wrong. They might make you feel like you did something wrong, and it'll happen over and over again, so get used to it. But you didn't. You just set up a boundary because it was something you don't like, and they're allowed to do that as well. And if our boundaries don't mesh up with each other, then perhaps we're not supposed to be in each other's lives, right? That's exactly it. That's the point of boundaries, is that sometimes you're not supposed to be around. Some people in your life are not supposed to be in your life, yeah, because they constantly step over your boundaries. They're constantly in your face and they're constantly causing you aggravation. Why do you want people like that in your life? Why do you need people like that in your life? You don't. And so your boundaries let you know that this person's not right for you. Kick them out. Get rid of them. Break off that friendship or break off that relationship. It's not working out for you because obviously that person doesn't really care about you, right? If someone's telling you, I don't like this over and over again, and they still keep on doing it, then that's a problem. That's a huge problem, and that needs to be corrected. Okay? So be careful. Don't let them make you feel bad for having boundaries. It's not a bad thing. Boundaries are a very important thing, and it's important for you to have them in order to be a healthy human being on this planet. It's absolutely crucial to have boundaries. I hope this makes sense. I know I talked about a couple of different things in here, but I hope this was useful to you. Again, if you have more questions on boundaries or you want me to do more videos on this, let me know. I love this topic and I don't mind doing it over and over and over again. If you have any questions, comment below and I shall do a follow-up video on the question. Again, thank you so much for watching. I shall see you the next time around. Bye for now.